Good morning. Going to do another check for public comment. Just a reminder, if you're joining us in person, please fill out a comment card in the back of the room. I had caller with it ending in 880. Will you please let us know if you have general public comment or comment on any agenda items?
General public comment.
Thank you. And Gigi's phone, I see your hand raised. Good morning. Do you have general public comment or comment on any agenda items?
Good morning. Just general, please.
Thank you. Oh, good. Ready? All right, President King, let me put us into record mode, and we are now recording.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for Monday, March 16, 2026. Ms. Satorsky, please take roll and establish quorum.
Good morning, Devin Zatorsky with the Board of Public Works, taking roll in establishing quorum. We're joined by President King, Vice President Chavez, President Pro Tem Grant, Commissioner Mitchell, and Commissioner Cardenas, and we do have a quorum. We're also joined by our City Attorney Representative, Mr. Costello Vega. We have no public commentary in person, but we do have general and multiple item commentary on the Zoom platform today.
Thank you very much. We will get started with general public comment, which is an opportunity for the public to address the board on public interest items, and will be provided up to 1 minute per person, up to a cumulative total of 10 minutes for the general public comment segment of each regular meeting. Testimony shall be limited in content to subject matters which are within the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works. The board may not take any action on any matters discussed during the public comment period. We do not have any in-person speakers, so we'll proceed with our virtual platform.
Okay, our first hand raised is Audit LA. Good morning. You'll have 1 minute for general public comment.
Good morning. Yes, I'm going to keep talking about unfair wages that, yes, religions do have people like monks and priests, and they're allowed to get a stipend of $50 a week for 100 hours of work. But it cannot be labor. It has to be religious. And a vast majority of what a lot of these people are doing are not religious, okay? You're seeing people do labor, filming, money, bringing in sales of books and all different kinds of things. And that's illegal. You cannot use or abuse the R1 system or the labor system to create basically a peonage system for yourself to save money. Okay, I'm asking you to please look into this for Film LA. Make sure that everybody who is within Sea Org is getting paid full wages, or that they are not allowed to be part of it. Same thing with any of their events, anything on the street. So I hope they're not getting any more events. They do not, they abuse the
Thank you,
system
caller.
too long. They don't
That's
deserve any. Thank you.
Our next hand raised is Georgina. Good morning, Georgina. You'll have 1 minute for general public comment.
Thank you. I don't understand why we would have a street named after any religious leader. We don't have a Muhammad Boulevard. We don't have a Jesus Christ Avenue. I actually Googled and searched every state. It's not a thing. And yet we have a street named after L. Ron Hubbard, one of the worst cult leaders in history. He's destroyed so many lives. He was a federal fugitive for the last 50 years of his life, and yet we have a street named after him. Or not 50 years, 40 years, I misspoke. But still, 40 years of his life, a federal fugitive, chased from state to state for all of his violations to the laws. He infiltrated the federal government. He created a cult that child traffics, abuses its members, financially bankrupts citizens, puts them in complete medical and physical harm, debt, and
caller.
yet we have
That's
a street
time.
to honor him.
Our next hand raised is Jennifer Spencer. Good morning. You'll have oh, sorry about that. 1 second. Jennifer, okay, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You'll have 1 minute.
Thank you. Each week I listen to the passionate pleas made by callers asking you to change the name of L. Ron Hubbard Way back to Berendo Street. There are no parking signs that were not put up by the city to stop people parking on their precious bricks that were laid by slaves of the cult of Scientology that were paid a wage that no one could live on. As a sign to show that the city stands with the indentured servants and against the abuse they have endured, I please ask you to change the name of L. Ron Hubbard Way back to Berendo Street. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. Our next hand raised is phone number ending in 880. You'll have 1 minute for general public comment.
I'm going to repeat that you really need to change the street name back to Berendo Street. It's just outrageous to have a name of a street named after the cult leader and a criminal and a child trafficker that, when they traffic labor, they traffic people to just use them as slaves. And it's just like having a name of Jeffrey Epstein Way. Would you have a Jeffrey Epstein Way? I don't think so, because we have Epstein files that came out, And in fact, I've heard that the cult of Scientology is probably mentioned in there, and it's just so unbelievable that you would have that in your city, and that you had people harassing the people that were protesting on Friday night on the 13th of March rather, that they waste resources and lie, and they say they're on the sidewalks. It's not their sidewalks to patrol. That is public property, and this has to end by.
Thank you, caller. That's time. Our next hand raised is Gigi's phone. Gigi, you'll have 1 minute for general public comment.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so first I want to start off with how annoying it is that there's not a timer on the Zoom screen. And it's very easy, and I know that you guys have the capability to do it because LAPD Police Commission, they have it. If you can't do that, is there any way you could move that timer right in front of the president, like so we could see it on screen when we're speaking? Because we have no idea when our 1 minute ends, and you only give us 1 minute compared to, you know, the time you gave us before. So like if we knew when our minute was up, we could actually talk better and we could end on time without being cut off. But I want to echo what everyone else said. You definitely need to change it back to North Berendo. There needs to be something done about the guards that are trying to enforce stuff on the public sidewalk, on the easement, on the public street. There has to be something that you guys can do since you guys are public works. They're supposed to be on their property, and they've personally messed with me multiple times right there on the public easement on the sidewalk. So something needs to be done with that. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. Our next hand raised I see is Marianne King. Marianne, you'll have 1 minute for general public comment.
Hi there. Actually, I can barely hear you, whoever is speaking and calling our names. If you could speak up a little. I'm actually here for item number 2.
Okay, great. We'll come to you on item number 2. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Next hand raised is Anne. Anne, do you have general public comment?
Hello, can you hear me? This is Ann Komarosk.
Yes, we can hear you. Do you have general
Hello,
public
my
comment?
name is Ann Komarosk. I'm a nonpartisan candidate for governor of California. And in case you didn't know, today our taxes are due, our redacted taxes. And the first official announcement of who can run for governor, who is an official candidate, won't be till the 23rd and officially to the public on the 26th. So I ask you, and ask all the public to please be patient, and all those commercials you see for all the other candidates are untrue. No one is an official candidate for governor of California until the 23rd or 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Our next hand raised is Eric Noreen. Eric, do you have general public comment?
Hello, this is Eric Noreen. I'm a steward for MOU 8 and 17. I'm also on the executive bargaining team for SEIU Local 721. I am commenting on the proposal to return to office. It was presented to my union last week. I strongly urge the board to withdraw this proposal publicly and formally so that we can begin the meet and confer process to actually come up with a telecommuting policy plan for the entire board, as well as all the jurisdiction under the board that works for the city and for the workers. I stand ready to negotiate. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Our next hand raised is Miriam. Miriam, do you have general public comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead. You'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, so I want to echo on the comments previously given regarding the cult of Scientology. I definitely think that the name of L. Ron Hubbard Way should be returned into North Berendo Street. I also want to emphasize that there's actually documented evidence that the cult of Scientology has, during the past decades, donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to LAPD to their different kind of free time activities, as well as they hired them outside of their duty to do security services for them. I think it's really time that the city officials at least take a stance and stop any kind of behind the scenes communication with the cult of Scientology, because it's clearly their method of getting their way by paying the government officials, the city officials,
Thank you, caller.
and the police
That's time.
department.
Okay, President King, that's the end of our hands raised for general public comment.
Thank you very much. With that, we will close the general public comment portion of today's meeting and move forward to multiple agenda item public comment. The board will provide an opportunity for members of the public wishing to speak on more than one agenda item during the multiple agenda item comment period for up to a minute per item, up to a total of 3 minutes per meeting. This is the only time to speak on more than one agenda item, and please identify the items that you will speak on when you are called. We do not have any in-person speakers, so we'll proceed with our virtual callers.
Okay, our first caller is Audit LA. Audit, you will have up to 3 minutes for the items, and please let us know which items you're speaking on.
Good morning. I want to start with, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but the one about the rejected bid. I actually appreciate this one so much because I like, it means that you're evaluating it, right? And for some reason, it didn't meet up to standard, so it's being rejected. And I like that. It means that you're looking into it. I appreciate that. It gives me more confidence that it's, because so many times you think it's just a rubber stamp, that the commission's just a rubber stamp, but this gives me hope that it's not, that you are evaluating. But when it comes to bids and when you're reopening the bid process, I want you to remember to please be very aware of labor trafficking, slave wages, different things like that, because it's shocking, I know, but this stuff is going on in America, in Los Angeles in 2026. And so please be very mindful of that. The other one is the trees. I want to talk about that. We're having a heat wave, which I love. Like they're saying it's a heat warning. It's going up to 90? I don't consider that excessive heat. I consider that comfortable. But regardless, we need our canopy. That's the only thing. When you are out in the hot sun, we don't have enough of a canopy. But I also want to ask if I would like to see some of the trees. I'm concerned about the trees on Fountain Avenue by L. Ron Hubbard Way, if they are going to be replaced or checked out because of all the excessive water that they put, as well as the trees overgrown. I cannot go down that sidewalk. So I absolutely cannot go down it. We had the protest on Friday with L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. One of my favorite streamers was there. I couldn't go down the sidewalk to greet her. And she's almost 80 years old. She had to, she's in her 70s. She had to come and get to me because I can't go to her. And it's just ridiculous. So yes, trees for the canopy, but also trees to make sure they're not digging up all the sidewalks. As far as the minutes, it's going to be the same old repeated broken record, or as I say, beat a dead horse, whatever, but I don't want to beat any horses, but you know what I mean? And it's the same thing. We would like to have a record of everyone, not just our calls. What about the other calls, of someone running for governor? That's pretty newsworthy. I would love to be able to go back and see, oh, okay, well, we have people running for governor calling public works. That's awesome. And so I would just ask you that you would just, like I said, I'd volunteer. I'd help you do it. Glad to do it. I used to be secretary of my neighborhood council. I know how to do it. And so the other one is for neighborhood councils. And that is, I hope you do more to recruit the input of neighborhood councils.
Thank you, Audit. That's time.
Thank you.
Okay, our next hand raised is Georgina. Georgina, you'll have up to 3 minutes for multiple item commentary, and please let us know which items you're speaking on.
We can barely hear you. There's a huge discrepancy between your volume and the call-in volume. I didn't hear myself even get cut off last time and kept talking. I want to first talk about the minutes. The fact that the minutes don't reflect the concerns of the citizens is alarming. It's it's not excusable. Our voices matter, our concerns matter, and our concerns aren't being addressed. And if they were at least included in the minutes, it would give an opportunity for people to see our concerns. It would give an opportunity for our concerns to be addressed and rectified, and there would be public record of them having been reported to you. As far as the trees go, I would greatly like to encourage the trees to be replaced with native trees. It's important to support our native flora and fauna. If we don't have native trees, then the fauna suffers from it as well. Animals need the native trees. We need the native trees. We need the canopy, as Audit said. As far as street repairs go, the lack of concern for the L. Ron Hubbard Way being worked on by their slave labor force, some of them getting paid as little as $12 an hour doing street repair on a public street. That's a huge liability and a concern. These people don't get proper medical care. They don't have proper insurance. It's a huge liability to the city and needs to be looked at. And again, what Gigi was saying about the timer not being shown, that would be a huge help as well. I'd like that addressed. Thank you. I yield back my time.
Great, thank you. Our next hand raised is Jeff Kober. Jeff, do you have a comment on multiple items or any items on the agenda today?
Hi, I'm sorry, that's my husband's name. My name is Adele Slaughter. I didn't realize I'm on his Zoom. I'm just want to talk on number 2.
Okay, we will come back to you when we get to item number 2. Thank you. Laura Anderson, good morning. Do you have multiple item commentary today? Laura, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Laura, I'll come back to you. Anne, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have comment on multiple items on the agenda today or any of our agenda items?
Yes, I do. This is Ann Comaras, nonpartisan candidate for Governor, California. By the way, if you want to look me up, it's npp2026.com.
Thank you. That was for general public comment. So if you're not commenting on any of the specific agenda items, we'll get back to you.
Roundabouts. What item is the roundabouts?
Can you repeat that?
What item is roundabouts?
There's no roundabout item today. So if you want to look at the agenda and then let us know if you have any comments on the items.
I couldn't really find the agenda, and the little timer thing is really kind of confusing.
Okay, we'll reach out to you if we can, you can stay on the line and we'll connect with you after the meeting about how to find that information.
Okay, you want my telephone number?
Laura Anderson, do you have multiple item commentary today?
Yeah, I do. Somehow I missed the general public, but I will just add to what everybody was saying in regards to the minutes. If we can get people who are calling in, because we have so much going on. Literally, like today, I have so much going on that I was trying to get to call in on general public, didn't get through. Then when you called, I couldn't unmute. So if we could just get on the minutes that it's important that people calling in talking about, you know, the revocable permit for Scientology and to please stop giving permits to Scientology, have those addressed on the minutes so it reflects on the record. And also the volume for the participants is really loud, but your guys' volume is super quiet. So we're really loud, but we can barely hear the city. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. All right, President Kang, that is the end of our Zoom hands raised for multiple item commentary. I believe we have an in-person.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, I know we have one in person. General public comment has closed, but you have the ability to comment on up to 3 items for up to 3 minutes. Call FBI, so you have up to 3 minutes on multiple agenda item.
All right, and thank you for not reopening public comment. Appreciate it. So let's see here. You guys have been bad boys. So I handed you 5 copies of something. We have a message. It's from the federal court. They have a message for you. It seems that a federal judge believes that somebody in the city has been lying about a lot of homeless money, and that's you guys, because you do the cleanups. So they were going to go ahead and have this person testify. You know what they did, the city? Spent $4 million on outside city attorneys so they can go to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, try to throw the judge off the case. Yeah, look at that. So first you're lying to the judge, now you want to insult the judge and have somebody get paid off to switch the judge. But you guys did that already. That's where I just came from. See, there's a judge that went to law school and is good friends with somebody that phoned in a threat to this building and was facing 5 to 10 years in federal prison. That's very serious. City employee calling here and calling in a bomb threat, you know how many years he's going to do? None. He got probation and a fine. And the judge that he got assigned recused himself off the case, only after somebody pointed out that they were good friends. Well, that same judge with that conflict has now become a special mediator in this case. And nobody knows it in the media now. You see, I know it.
Speaker, which agenda item are you speaking
I'm
on?
talking about the minutes. Because, see, you guys need to start taking this job seriously, okay? You're not giving them the timer. You're muting their audio. You're not giving 2 minutes for general comment. I came in here, I signed up in time for that. Yeah, start taking this job seriously. Because, you know, it's real easy once somebody gets indicted to have co-conspirators charged for accessory and conspiracy. It's extremely simple. And also I have a video, but I'm not going to have enough time to play it, where I caught a homeless person that gets services from your city setting a fire in Encino at 3 o'clock in the morning. I called the fire department, and they just drove up and told him to stop it. So he stamps it out. As soon as they leave, he set the fire right up again. They didn't even get out of the car. That's how the Palisades fire started. And that was just Friday night. So anyway, you guys have a good time. If the FBI calls, let somebody know.
Thank you very much. I believe that concludes our speakers for multiple item public comment. With that, we will close multiple item public comment portion of today's meeting and move forward with the approval of minutes for Friday, March 6, 2026. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a first and a second?
So moved. Second.
First by President Pro Tem Grant, seconded by Commissioner Cardenas.
Okay, we will take the roll call, starting with you, President King.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
Great, all ayes, the minutes are adopted.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our next agenda item number 1 for Council District 14, request for authority for Cesar E. Chavez Avenue.
Good morning, President Kang, Commissioners. Udi Jimenez, Bureau of Engineering, Chief Real Estate Officer, and I'm here to report on the Cesar Chavez, Lorena Street, and Indiana Street intersection project. And in particular, the recommendations that we're making is to ask the board to authorize the city engineer or his designee to approve the purchase of necessary and eligible substitute personal property, to complete the relocation of La Jolla from the Cesar Chavez address to a Maywood address, and to approve reimbursement or advance payments of the approved eligible actual reasonable and necessary relocation costs based on the relocation budget authorized and adopted by the Board of Public Works December 6, 2019. Additionally, we're asking the board to authorize the city engineer or his designee to request that the Los Angeles Department of Transportation draw the necessary funds for reimbursements and/or advance payments, request for approved eligible, actual, reasonable, and necessary substitute equipment related to the relocation expenses to complete the relocation of the La Jolla Tortilla Factory. Um, So just to back up a little, in December 6th, the board, 2019, the board approved a budget of around $864,000 for both the relocation of La Jolla and the purchase of substitute equipment. Since that approval, La Jolla has found a replacement property in Maywood, and the establishment of the new location will actually be less costly than the original budget, primarily because they're moving into a location that was already established as a tortilla factory. So we anticipate the cost to be 766,000 instead of 864,000, about $100,000 difference. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I know this is a complicated case, but any comments or questions from the commissioners? All right, thank you for working out all the details on this. Is there a first and a second?
Second.
First by Commissioner Mitchell, seconded by Commissioner Cardenas.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First by Commissioner Mitchell, seconded by Commissioner Cardenas. We'll take the roll call, starting with you, President King.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez. Aye. President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
Great, all ayes. The item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Thank you very much. Moving to item number 2 from our Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, President Kong and commissioners and board staff. Today, Streets LA is requesting that the board approve.
Thank you. We're trying to fix the sound, so thank you, thank you. Okay, try again. Thank you.
Okay. Today, Streets LA is requesting, can you hear me? That the board approve revisions to the tree replacement guarantee fee planting methodology and the fiscal year 25-26 planting plan, and forward the item to the mayor and city council for consideration. We are also requesting authorization to utilize approximately $1.69 million in collected tree replacement guarantee fees, which allow the city to plant and establish approximately 923 trees across the city. By way of background, the tree replacement guarantee fee program was established in 2019 as an option when required replacement trees cannot feasibly be planted on site. In those cases, a fee is paid and the city plants trees elsewhere in the public right-of-way. Since the program began, hundreds of trees have been planted across Los Angeles. However, the original planting map developed in 2019 has largely been exhausted, and identifying new planting sites required manual field verification and coordination with individual council offices. This slowed implementation and made it difficult to move planting forward consistently. To address this, Streets LA has developed a dynamic tree replacement guarantee fee prioritization dashboard to identify and rank potential planting sites citywide using a data-driven methodology. The tool evaluates vacant planting location across the city using 5 criteria related to equity, heat mitigation, and planting feasibility. These includes the city's measure of access disparity and equity index, or the MADE tool, overhead utility conflicts, available planting space, shade gaps using UCLA Luskin heat data, and proper spacing from nearby trees. Each site receives a total score between 0 and 50, with higher scores indicating locations that are both feasible for planting and likely to provide greater environmental and community benefits. Using this methodology, the city has identified over 74,000 potential planting locations, including nearly 4,400 sites in the top 5% of priority locations and nearly 5,000 within the top 20%. This creates a strong pipeline of locations where tree planting can occur as funding becomes available. This approach provides several important benefits. First, it improves equity and transparency by prioritizing communities experiencing greater environmental burdens and less access to cooling resources. Second, it improves efficiency, allowing Streets LA to maintain a continuously updated list of shovel-ready planting locations rather than restarting the site identification process each time funding becomes available. Third, it supports long-term tree success by ensuring planting locations have adequate space, proper spacing, and fewer infrastructure conflicts. The program also includes funding for 3 years of establishment, watering, and maintenance to help ensure these trees survive and reach maturity. Finally, the report requests that the city attorney explore options to provide greater flexibility in the future so that tree replacement guarantee fees could be directed to areas of greatest need across the city. If approved today, the next steps will be to forward the item to the mayor and city council, begin planting at the identified priority locations, and return to the board annually with updates on planting progress funded through this program. This completes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Cardenas.
Yes, thanks for that report. I just had a couple questions. One, looking at the fees that were collected, what's the process for collecting those fees? It doesn't look like it's a flat fee across the board. So what's the rationale for the different price points for different areas?
So the fees are based on the number of trees that were removed at the site. And then after that, if a tree cannot be replanted at that location where the trees were removed, then it's a 2-to-1 replacement that's placed somewhere else within the vicinity of the project. That's how it currently exists. And so it depends really on the number of trees that were removed and the ability to replant at the location.
Okay. I have a second question. I was doing a cursory review of the attachment 1 and just wanted to know who reviewed the council district lists for this proposal.
Who reviewed which of the council offices?
Yes.
So we've met with Council District 5 for one of the to have them provide comments on the locations and the approach.
Okay, because I'm looking at page 60 of the report for Council District 7. I live in Council District 7. I was just looking at that, and I don't see any address that is familiar. I don't know if there's Denver, Southwest Boulevard, 83rd Street, 79th Street. I don't know if there's any 79th Streets out in that area. So there's not one address in CD7 on this list for CD7.
So there's a map that's included as part of the report, and it shows the locations where trees are.
I understand, but when I plug in these addresses, they're in CD9 downtown. They're not in the valley.
We'll take a look at that and see if there was some sort of a mistaken switch between the council offices.
Okay, because I don't think CD7 is going to be too happy with their list.
Okay, we'll take a look at it.
Thank you very much. Vice President Chavez, you had questions?
Sure. Take the next one. I know that the way you came up with the prioritization is the MAID index. And I think there's just been this natural tension between how these locations were prioritized, and yet there's this requirement, this nexus requirement, that fees must be spent where the fees are generated. They must be spent in the same council district where they were generated. You know, Council District 7, 8, 9, 15, they have the highest equity scores and the greatest need, but they're receiving the fewest amount of trees because they generate the fewest fees. And so this is where this inequity has happened, and how we've kind of gotten to this state of just a systematic underinvestment in the places that need investment the most. These are the highest need communities. I know that one of the recommendations is to have city attorney to report on alternative options for more flexibility. I think that is an urgent item. I think we should put a timeline on this. I know this has to go through council as well, but I think that this needs sooner rather than later because I think it's sort of an overdue change that needs to happen. In terms of for the timeline of when so talk to me a little bit about the timeline of when you're proposing to have the trees planted. Is that all supposed to happen in the current fiscal year or in the upcoming fiscal year?
Yes. So our goal is to plant 923 trees before the end of the fiscal year and before summer arrives. That way we can be back to zero again and then start anew next fiscal year. So the 923 trees that we're hoping to plant this fiscal year is an accumulation of trees that we've owed from all the guaranteed tree fee collected over time, waiting for a plan to be put together. So what's nice about the dynamic plan is that this will avoid waiting several years for a plan to be approved before being able to plant. And as you pointed out, Vice President, is that there's an urgency right now to get these trees in the ground and to address the most pressing needed locations in the city.
So these are for the current fiscal year, correct? You're saying current
These are
fiscal?
the 923 trees are the balance of trees that we owed over since 2019 when the static plan was exhausted.
So the plan is to plant them before the end of the current fiscal year, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what's the plan for the remaining 4,000 plus priority sites? What's the long-term strategy here?
So for the remaining top 5% most pressing locations, any future guaranteed tree fee will go towards that location if it's approved, if this methodology is approved. At the same time, we plan to use this methodology to also determine our work plan of where Urban Forestry Division plants and our nonprofit planting partners. They are very open into using this methodology to figure out where they need to plant in the city, kind of divide and conquer where trees need to be planted as they apply for grants.
And so the report's basically saying we will now be authorizing the Bureau to select the future planting locations based on this updated methodology without coming to the board each time, correct?
Without having to go to each council offices to determine the locations, but we'll be reporting to the board every year as to what we've planted the previous year and what we are aiming to plant the following fiscal year based on the collected guaranteed tree fees.
Okay. And will that report also include just some metrics of, how many trees were survived, because not all trees make it and they need to be, you need to have an established sort of plan to, replace the ones that don't survive. Are you going to include metrics?
We can
with that
include.
report?
We can definitely include those metrics. I think as technology and all our permitting system gets more sophisticated, we are able to track more data. So that could be one that we could share as part of our annual reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the last thing is just want to learn more about kind of what the public-facing reporting is going to look like on this. I know you have an internal dashboard that currently is beta, but the plan is to make it public and showing, what the planned plantings are, what the fees are for per council district. And I think that's going to be a really great tool to increase accountability, community engagement. So can you talk to us a little bit about that and how, if there's any way to allow residents to have any kind of input? Is there going to be any method for the community to nominate specific locations, for example? Is there going to be an opportunity for that?
I think they can always reach out to us. We'll make sure that the dashboard includes what we've planted and where we planted within their council district. And there's ways for them to reach out to us to then, out of the priorities, to list down which ones they want to focus on based on just their community knowledge of the area.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Before we take additional questions, I did realize we do have two single item public commenters, so we'll hear from those commenters and then we'll resume our questions.
Okay, our first public commenter for item number 2 is Marianne King. You'll have 1 minute to comment on item number 2.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Marianne King. I'm a Community Forest Advisory rep for CD12. I know that Community Forest Advisory Committee knows nothing about this. This is our bread and butter, tree policy in the city. So I respectfully request that this decision not be made today, that we have the opportunity to review it and provide feedback because it's a total revision of the tree replacement plan. And as a CD rep for CD12, I have questions about imbalance where we're going here with a high development in our community and not having mitigation at all, having it going to a different council district. So I'm very concerned about creating another inequity with this program, if you understand what I'm saying. So please let CFAC review this before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Our next hand raised is caller Jeff Kober. I know that was under your husband's name, but you can please introduce yourself and you'll have 1 minute for item number 2.
Hi, excuse me. I am Adele Slaughter. I'm Vice Chair of the Community Forest Advisory Committee, CFAC, and I'm here to speak about the proposed revisions on the tree placement guidelines. I agree very wholeheartedly with Marianne King. We have not reviewed this at CFAC. We meet monthly. It would absolutely be something we would like to talk about. And, you know, the concern is that there's a lot of development happening all over the city, and even in areas where there is abundant tree canopy, we've had an extreme loss of trees. And so I would think that CFAC would do a formal review of this policy and make sure that maybe it's only a percentage of trees that's going to the inequity areas. And look, I understand that downtown has like a 5% tree canopy, which is absolutely unacceptable. But to take from the places where there's places all over the city that need attention. It's not just in those areas.
Thank you, caller. That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, we have 1 more hand raised as well.
Okay.
And did you have a comment on item number 2, the tree replacement guarantee?
Yes, my name is Ann Komarosk, running for governor. Listen, I'm all for planting more trees, and I don't understand we have so many fees to plant trees. I thought our regular taxes go towards paying for trees. So no one should be denied a tree. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Okay, that's the end of our hands raised.
Thank you very much. So wanted to ask the Bureau if you could address some of the comments from the public.
Yes, absolutely. So we do have plans to present this to CFAC in April. The scheduling of the board presentation today just fell between the CFAC meetings, which they only meet once a month. And so we do have plans to meet with them, as well as, I believe, CD12.
Thank you very much. And then any other questions before I have some questions as well? Couple things in terms of selecting the location. So I know that you're going through different communities, low disadvantaged, underserved communities, low canopy areas. But in terms of some of those communities don't have a lot of vacant tree wells that's currently available for planting. So if that is the case, are we searching for alternative locations, or does that kind of bypass that particular area for consideration?
Yeah, so citywide, we have about 74,000 vacant tree wells, and even within each council offices, there are thousands of vacant tree wells. So we are not in any way have a shortage of vacant tree wells to plant trees in. Each council offices have thousands of them.
Okay. And then the other thing that I've noticed just surveying just various communities throughout the city is that when there's a vacant tree well, either the business owner or the resident has felt empowered and planted their own things in there, or even poured concrete to cover up those wells? I know you mentioned there were some site visits in determining these locations, but I wonder, how do we triage those types of situations?
So the way that the current approach is visiting each of the site and then determining where trees can be planted. So this one is leveraging UFD's tree inventory of vacant tree sites and prioritizing the ones based on the criteria to plant those. The trees that we're hoping to plant are as large a species as possible, and that's why we prioritize the ones that have the largest planting spaces. I'm not sure if that answered your question, Preston Kine.
And then what about those locations where people have poured concrete?
Where they poured concrete. Once we see that they've already poured concrete in there, we move on to the next location. Because there's so many of them. The ones where concrete has already been poured are called the tier 2 locations where saw cutting needs to be done. So we're focusing on what's called tier 1, where there's readily available planting locations.
And you're saying that because there's plenty of these empty wells throughout, even in disadvantaged communities, you're able to identify the correct number of trees to plant?
Yes.
Okay. President Pro Tem Grant.
Let me just follow up on that tree wells question. Commissioner Mitchell and I were at the Arbor Day event this last weekend in Council District 9, where some 600 trees were planted. 64 had been planted a year ago and were vandalized. But the comment that struck me most was that there were no tree wells in that area, and they had to specifically cut them out. So while there may be plentiful tree wells that are vacant, there are also areas that need tree wells that don't have them. Are there any steps within this proposal to address that issue of where there are no tree wells and a lack of shade, if you will, or canopy?
Yeah, so at this time, this methodology is addressing only, as I mentioned, the tier 1 locations where there's already readily plantable tree wells.
There are no plans to look at areas where there are no tree wells at this point?
I think a future iteration of this methodology is to look at tier 2, where next thing is saw cutting, and tier 3 is the one where sidewalk widening or curb extensions are needed. So right now we're focusing on the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, because it doesn't require much more funding to then plant trees where there's already available space versus having to seek more funding to do the saw cutting.
Okay. The other last question on my end is, I understand just, talking to all stakeholders does take quite a bit of time, and I don't want that to hold up the process because we're not the end. It also goes through council, mayor, and further briefings. And I know you mentioned CFAC in April. If the board were to approve what's before us today, are there opportunities to amend and change either locations or the things that we're approving today, even after the fact?
I think what this methodology just does is just make it transparent for everybody where the greatest need is. Beyond that, of course, elected officials can always chime in with their priorities within their district. But we're hoping that through this, it's a data-driven approach. We can clearly see where the most need is, even within each council offices.
Okay. Because that, for me, I don't want to hold this up and wait another month when you're trying to plant 900 plus trees by the end of the current fiscal year. But it sounds like there are potentially room for changes. So I'm comfortable moving this forward, given that, additional conversations are scheduled between council, mayor, and CFAC and other stakeholders. So Commissioner Cardenas.
Yes, thank you. And can you give us a timeline when we can see an updated or corrected version of the attachment
We can
one?
have that to you within this week, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
We'll take a look at that.
All right. Any other Vice President Chavez?
Yes, so I understand the sort of the, pressing need right now to address the the backlog, if you will, through overtime. However, that's not the most, I can't imagine that's the most efficient way to do this. And so whether that's figuring out, long-term, how we're going to staff, and have staff that can do this if we're going to do this long-term, or partnering with our nonprofit partners to, maximize the amount of money. I mean, we're spending $1.6 million to plant less than 1,000 trees. I gotta think that given our timeline to, with the games coming, we want to have more green, we want to have more trees. I really would like to see a staffing analysis comparing the cost of overtime planting versus what it would look like if we hired even seasonal or I don't know if that's possible, but seasonal urban forestry staff, and a combination of partners doing this with our existing nonprofit partners. I would like to see that come back as a separate staff analysis, because we got to plan, we got to stop doing this as a stopgap, just generally we're always planning stopgap measures, but we need to start planning a little bit more in the future, especially now that if you get this methodology, hopefully that will allow you to have some more stability or foreseeability in terms of what it will look like in the future.
Yeah, so for this one, the reason that we made it an overtime activity is because our core services need to continue. So what we're budgeted for planting for the year, as well as all the other things that we're doing, trimming, permitting, etc. And so that's why this is on overtime. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, the methodology can be used for other work plan tree planting by nonprofit partners. As I mentioned, like you can divide and conquer the city into different locations for each of the planting partner to then look at the methodology and see which ones require planting the most.
So that staff analysis for the next fiscal would like to see that, sort of what the plan is. Like I said, I understand what the plan is for the next 3 months, but I'm talking about next fiscal year and the year beyond that. In addition, in terms of sense of urgency, would like to request that analysis from city attorney, if we could do something like 90 days from the time of final approval. I'd like to add that in terms of the requests that we're making in this report.
Okay, any other comments? Commissioner Mitchell, did you have additional comments or questions? Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, is there a first and a second as amended? Yes.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Mitchell first, and then President Pro Tem Grant second.
Okay, we have a first by Commissioner Mitchell, second by President Pro Tem Grant. Okay, thank you. We will take the roll call, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, the item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, which will be on consent. We'll be asking the board to reject this bid, given that all the bids that we received was quite high, and we'll be re-advertising. So I'll move number 3. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Okay, we have a motion by President Kang, second by Commissioner Mitchell. Roll call, starting with you, President Kang.
Aye.
Vice President Chavez.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Grant.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. And Commissioner Cardenas.
Aye.
All ayes, the item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our last item, number 4, which is a presentation about the Warner Center Active Transportation Hub Plan from the Bureau of Street Services, and we also have a representative from Council District 3.
Let me just test. Okay, good. Okay. Good morning, President Kang. Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Gina Liang.
landscape architect with the Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA. We are here today to provide an oral report to summarize the Warner Center Active Transportation Hub Plan. Per the grant deliverables, Streets LA's consultant Idris, Sean here with me, is to present the project development to fulfill the completion of this project. We have prepared a power presentation to go with our process and development. So here we go. Project background. A little bit of background about this project. The Warner Center Active Transportation Hub Plan was funded through the Southern California Association of Government, the SCAG, and the Sustainable Communities Program for Civic Engagement, Equity, and Environmental Justice. Streets LA, we applied for the grant in June 2023 and it was awarded in October 2023. Working with Council District 3, Jeff Jacobberger especially, and partnering with SCAG, the project started at the end of October 2025 and was just completed February of this year. The project was built on a 2013 Warner Center specific plan to transform Warner Center into a walkable and a bikeable neighborhood while meeting the specific plan's goals. It intends to enhance connections among residentials, office, commercial developments along with the Orange Line and the LA River. The approach to these corridor improvements is to have a holistic design to address both the hardscape and the softscape along these corridors. As Sean will go into in detail, I'll just quickly do an executive summary about this process. The Warner Center project identifies barriers to active transportations. It defines priority investments and develops conceptual designs for a connected active transportation network throughout the Warner Center area. It advances 30 key priority projects, aims at improving walking, biking, and rolling in Warner Center. It also outlines a strategy to leverage future funding opportunities to support project implementation. The plan is to add 9.6 miles of protected bikeway, a 4.9 miles improved sidewalk, in addition to build out the Warner Center Specific Plan 2035 street standards. The project held several technical advisory committee and community advisory committee meetings. So with all these input in these committees, Idris received many inputs, and they were able to conclude 3 top priority projects for opportunities. The first one is at Owens Mouth Avenue from Van Owen Street to Burbank. Second one is Varel Avenue at Victoria Boulevard. Third is Oxnard Street from Topanga Canyon Boulevard to DeSoto Avenue. These 3 projects will serve as a catalyst investment for active transportation by providing a foundational network of the active transportation within the Warner Center. Just by enhancing connectivity to key destinations and existing active transportation infrastructure. The following slide, I'll have Sean go into detail on this project.
Thank you, Gina. Hi, Mr. President and Commissioners. My name is Sean Daly. I work at a company called Iteris. I'm a transportation planner. I was the consultant lead on this project. And as Gina so eloquently said, we entered into this partnership that was already going on with SCAG and the city departments, and that sort of flowed through a whole process. So we had many partners, both on public agencies and in our community engagement, which really informed this process. So that was a big part of this. Our objectives for this were to develop a plan that was really about active transportation, walking and biking, really fulfilling what the specific plan had laid out in a policy sense in a more practical and implementable way. The very unique parts of Warner Center, having the Orange Line there, the 101 freeway really defines the southern section, so it's a bit of a barrier. And then there are no real local streets. It's really arterials, a collection of arterials and superblocks. So it's a pretty unique part of the city. The community-informed and inclusive process that was part of our objectives, we really embraced. We had 30 recommendations, 29 of them came straight from our community engagement. And then the last bit is really the outcome, facilitating multimodal options to reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. So that was inherent to the projects that are part of it, so part of this program. Oh, I'll go to the next one. So the outcomes, identifying barriers. We had a lead time where we talked about needs. People were more than happy to talk about barriers to walking and biking. I will say shade actually was our #1 feedback point. Sidewalk condition was next. Bike lane protection was kind of third in that. We were scoped to provide 20 priority projects, but we came up with 30 ideas from the public, so we kept it at 30. With those 3 projects that Gina mentioned bubbling at the top, Owens Mouth, Oxnard, and the crossing of Varial at Victory. Those were sort of key points where you get a north-south and east-west and an important crossing between big facilities. So they were good priorities. And broadly speaking, like I said, we built this off of a lot of community and engagement. So that was sort of baked into our process. We had a big initial period of looking at needs, hearing from folks. People actually didn't hold back. There were a lot of solutions that were mentioned during that period, so we took note of that. And that fed into the next period where we're looking at the priorities to meet these needs, priority projects, priority actions to meet those. And then those coalesced into the plan itself. So the engagement, we had a technical advisory committee, which was city planning, Streets LA, DOT, and Caltrans, and the council district office. And they were great for shaping aspects of what we did, telling us what's going on. There's always stuff going on in the city and things coming up, what types of barriers for protected bike lanes are favored, all these details that are really useful. We also had a community advisory committee that was made up of people who represented organizations such as the hospital, the Kaiser Hospital, the Rams, because they're new facilities right in the middle of Warner Center, Warner Center Association, the Neighborhood Council, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Homeowners Association. All were involved in big and little ways in shaping this. They were really good about refining our general public comments as well. So it was super useful to have those 2 groups. And then we had the community at large engagement. So online surveys, community workshops, pop-up events, and focus groups. The focus groups were at Canoga Park High School, which is on the very northern border. That was some of our most insightful comments actually from students and parents there, because they're dealing with a lot of walking and biking issues that others don't deal with. And then we had a project website. So we sort of accepted comments in all these different ways, and we put them together in one place so that we could develop those priorities that we are going to talk about. So as those comments came in, everything coalesced on a couple of principles about how we do this determination of what gets prioritized for implementation. Connectivity, #1, super important. A lot of the comments were how there are great parts of Warner Center and the active transportation system, but connecting them was an issue. So that got a really high priority, is making sure that we were leveraging current assets and then the future assets as well. No unprotected bike lanes. As I said, that's almost all arterials in the Warner Center, so bike lane protection is very important on faster streets. That was pretty much universally embraced by folks. Using the specific plan build out, which has street standards as our base, and then we build from there. And then looking at holistic improvements, the green infrastructure, gray infrastructure, when we're looking at putting in protected bike lanes and corridors, looking at the shade, looking at all aspects. So the priority projects all had the holistic improvements built in. And then the specific plan had a concept of an urban trail as a cultural connection, where there's an arts fund in the Warner Center, and placing those at the activity nodes, although it didn't really define an urban trail. So we were building off of that concept and making this connected thing. So we got to ask the public about which facilities they want improved, which connections, how to improve operations, and then the support infrastructure that they wanted to see. And that turned into the plan. So really it's about corridors and crossings, and then street segments for improvement for pedestrians, and then also just multimodal, meaning bike, pedestrian, all modes. And as we said, we have the north-south Owensmouth, the east-west Oxnard, and then the Varial Victory crossing that connects the protected bike lanes that are on Varial to the Orange Line bike path on the other side. Overall, about 65% of the intersections are involved in this priority plan in the Warner Center, making a lot more connections. We estimate a mode shift in the Warner Center of about 4% from auto to active trips with all of these improvements implemented. That translates into 2.5% reduction in VMT. The reason that's lower is because you're mostly focused on shorter trips within the community that you're looking to move from vehicles to walking and biking. And then our implementation plan is where we ended. Some implementation plans put a time staging. I didn't feel that we could predict the amount of time, although we could tell you which projects will take longer to implement. So the implementation plan is really more about the avenues of implementation. We have the 3 early action projects, which are really to be put up through competitive grant funding programs. Then we have opportunistic actions, which if you're doing a road resurfacing, can it be restriped for bike lanes, that sort of thing. And then the infrastructure projects for development were ones that were big concepts that we didn't quite get to the same level as those 3 early action programs, but are very important. The one I want to call out that's in there that's probably the most important was crossing the 101. There are 3 undercrossings of the 101. Topanga Canyon, of course, is a Caltrans roadway. They're doing some improvements there. Canoga is an interesting one because it's only a half interchange, so there's a fairly narrow sidewalk on one side, but still a connection. And then DeSoto is also an interesting one on the east side of the Warner Center, and is probably more connected to the schools in the area. So they all have sort of reasons to improve, but it needed sort of its own process to develop those priorities. And then the last one was policy and programmatic actions. Those were around street tree program, maintenance programs, items that a lot of the feedback we heard from the community. So the last 2 slides are the early action projects. This is in plan view of Oxnard and Owensmouth and Varial, but probably more interesting are the renderings. And I think that once you see it on the street level, it's sort of really about defining space. That's something we heard, especially around safety, is so the bicyclists, the pedestrians, and the vehicles all know where they're supposed to be, and creating a safer and better environment. And I'll turn it back to Gina.
So what's next? With these 3 priority projects in the Warner Center, we will continue to work with CD3 to seek grant funding for additional planning of the model corridor. And, obviously, once the funding is available, we will collaborate, Streets LA will collaborate with our interdepartment to continue to share these multi-benefit opportunities and to maximize our grant eligibility and competitiveness to carry out these projects. That would conclude our presentation. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you very much. And we have several questions. We'll start with President Pro Tem Grant.
I would thank you for the report. It's a question for you and Jeff. To what extent can this be replicated in other, it's more of a theoretical discussion, in other districts? Like, are there natural enhancements here that make this unique and can't be replicated, but are there some things that we've learned that we can in fact build this out in other areas? Not exactly piggybacking, but the discussion we had before about the lack of canopies in different areas. And I think the similar thing is the lack of transportation accessibility for folks in other districts as well. To what extent can you see this can be replicated, or there's something that's unique to this that makes it sort of one of a kind? And thank you to CD3. I know you've done all this work.
Yeah, we get 3%.
I mean, I'll give the CD3 perspective, and I just want to thank you all for taking the time to hear this. It's not often we get attention to projects out in the West Valley. I think there's some things that make this project somewhat unique. We had that, as was mentioned, the Warner Center specific plan, so we sort of had I think in the last 15 years, we've had more than 10,000 housing units built or entitled in a very small area, so that sort of created among the community sort of a desire to do something better. This particular area, it does connect to the LA River Path, the Orange Line path, like real backbone, high quality networks. And then immediately to the north in Canoga Park, we do have an active transportation project, the Connecting Canoga Park project, which hopefully will continue to fund and get implemented. So, I think those things sort of made the Warner Center like the next obvious place to go. And I'm not sure that I mean, there are other places that exist, right? It's like, here's where our, really backbone, high quality, active transportation infrastructure is, and then what's the, how do we extend that to the next place?
Sure, I can, as a planner, it's really about process. So yeah, I mean, I think the details are all different, but the process is similar, really. Giving the community enough time to absorb what we're trying to do, and so that needs phase being really long, and then going into figuring out priorities in partnership with the city agencies, with the public, with the council district. I think that's something that can be replicated pretty well. Yeah.
I mean, as far as Streets LA's perspective, what we learned, which is very similar to other projects, is that the outreach is very important, and what the feedback that we receive, sometimes it's very obvious, we know what they want, sometimes it is not, because it's very specific to the Warner Center. That's, to me, is the difference. But as far as in general, the safety, right, of cyclists, can be learned and improved as the next project. The canopy, pedestrian, the comfort level for the sidewalk, that's also, more emphasized and reoccurring in every other corridor. So there are a lot of stuff that are in general that you can take on, and there's other that are very specific that we can learn and apply.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Cardenas.
I just had a clarification question. There was a term in here, low stress bike path. I hadn't heard that before. Is that a new term or?
It's a newish term, but yeah, I think we wanted to distinguish because the unique character, there's different ways of providing low stress. So you can put a barrier, you can have an off-street path. So it's sort of like a catch-all term in terms of, I think they generally classify cyclists, you've got your adventurous guy that's gonna ride wherever, on whatever dangerous street, all the way down to small children. And then the lowest stress one is that you'd be comfortable having small children ride their bike on.
All right. I never heard that before. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Vice President Chavez.
Yes, thank you. I mean, this is one of those, I mean, I think someone said this is a catalyst plan, and obviously it's in a lot of parts. I'm just trying to understand sort of kind of timing, what remaining deliverables are outstanding under the SCAG grant. When is the final plan expected to be adopted? And then sort of what are the next steps in terms of like, when do you, who's going to be the lead in terms of applying for the ATP grants, and has any of that work begun to start putting that together?
As far as the SCAG grant, we've already concluded our deliverables.
Okay.
This is our last task of deliverable.
Oh, excellent.
To
Congratulations.
present to you guys. And then the next step, working with CD3 and trying to determine when is the best time to apply. Obviously, with the understanding of Streets LA's resources, and because this project will not just require Streets LA, it's going to take the rest of the city family. So we're talking about BOE, right? We're talking about, LA Sanitation, BSL. Again, so it's not as easy. I think let's just be transparent. We want to apply for next ATV cycle. We want to make sure that the timing of it, the resources that all city family is or can commit to this project if we get funded. So that would be the next step, is to just make sure we collaborate and make sure that internally we have the resources, and then the timing we can execute it.
Yes, Jeff.
And if I could just add, because as you all know, Councilmember Blumenfield's termed out in December, so we're sort of looking at how we institutionalize this. Some of this is we're in the process of finalizing the Southwest Valley community plans and making sure that these networks and stuff are actually identified in the mobility elements of that community plan. And then hopefully as we move to a place of actually implementing HLA, right, that we, some of this stuff, even without a grant, will just become institutionalized and implemented as just sort of the normal course of the city's business as well.
No, I appreciate that. I'm no stranger to planning things beyond the term ending. It's really important to, and that's why I'm asking sort of some of these big picture questions. And I'm just curious, how does this plan integrate with the Warner Center specific plan? Is that what you were mentioning, that build out? Are those integrated?
I think the Warner Center specific plan, I think was adopted in 2013, but obviously drafted before then. So still, its transportation elements are still kind of auto-focused, intersection improvements, vehicles. So some of this is envisioned in like potentially amending either the community plan and the mobility element itself, so that some of these become the new street standards that as development happens will to the extent that we are requiring people to make street improvements, that those would be incorporated and required.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know you all had a very robust public engagement process. Just curious, how long did it kind of take to kind of really flush that out with whether it's the neighborhood councils, all the different stakeholders in this particular area?
So we left a lot of time in the beginning because to rev this up and for people even to know what you're doing, it takes time. So it was about 6 months for that needs phase. And then we warned people that if we pass that deadline, we'll still hear you and we'll include you. But and then we had a pretty intensive, I think 3 months or so for sussing through those priorities, which was a little messy because we asked people something and then we refined what we were asking and we went back again. And then we presented the final plan. We actually had 28 projects during the draft final project phase, and then the community added 2. So right up until the end, we were trying to be as responsive as possible because people are busy and you sort of have to be conscious of that. And so great ideas that come at the end are just as good as great ideas at the beginning. So.
Thank you very much. Yes.
And then just on the outreach, I would add, one of the things I think, and I really want to commend the consultant team for doing is, often we think we have these like standalone outreach events and 8 people show up, right? Of really trying to have a pop-up event at the farmer's market, at, I think there was a car show or whatever in Warner Center Park. And then, the Canoga Park High School reached out and, the consultant team really made an effort to connect with meet at the time when the parents group at the high school was meeting. And, so I think as a city, right, we can all do a better job of not thinking we're doing outreach by holding a meeting, but by actually meeting people where they are. And if I could just take a moment, right, to again thank all of you for paying attention to this, and really thank Nina and Gina at Streets LA for the outstanding work they did on this, Lindsay Nolan at SCAG, and the consultant team, Sean and Vigan, and really all the members of the community who participated in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. I believe that concludes our items for today.
Yes, it's the end of our agenda items.
Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, March 18th, 2020.
Friday.
Friday. My apologies. Wednesday, we'll be observing Ramadan, and we won't have our regular meeting on Wednesday, and our regular Board of Public Works meeting will resume on Friday, March 20th, 2026, right here in downtown Los Angeles. The meeting now is adjourned at 11:19 a.m., and we'll pick it right back up with our management meeting.